What I've found is if you can think about nothing and just focus on what the task at hand is, that's where I've found the most success. And when I'm not thinking, I'm playing my best. When you have thoughts roaming through your brain, it's taking away energy to put towards, how you make saves or whatever it is. I think it's been pretty critical. And if it weren't for him, I don't know if I'd have the same mental capacity, for sure.
That was Dustin Wolf, the #1 ranked goalie prospect in the Calgary Flames organization. And you are listening to the Up My Hockey podcast with Jason Podolak.
Just watch me now.
Welcome to Up My Hockey with Jason Podolak, where we deconstruct the NHL journey, discuss what it takes to make it, and have a few laughs along the way. I'm your host, Jason Podolak, a 31st overall draft pick who played 41 NHL games, but thought he was destined for 1,000. Learn from my story and those of my guests. This is a hockey podcast about reaching your potential.
Hey there, and welcome back, or welcome to the Up My Hockey podcast with Jason Podolak. I am your host, Jason Podolak. This is episode 120. And for me, this was a ton of fun, this interview that you're going to listen to. It's with Dustin Wolf. If that's a name you have not heard of, you should. He is an up-and-coming goaltender. Not only is he an up-and-coming goaltender, he actually has been the best goaltender in the AHL for the last 2 seasons. And this is coming off of an absolutely lights-out junior career at the WHL level. And why I was excited to speak with him specifically is because he is not one of these giants. He is not one of these 6'6", 6'7" goaltenders that seems to be, sweeping the National Hockey League and pro hockey leagues kind of around internationally around the world. He is 6 foot-ish, and that is small in today's world as far as goaltending is concerned. And we get involved actually right off the hop. I go right there. I ask him how tall he is. I ask him how it's affected his career to date being on the smaller side. And we just get right into it. It's a little bit of a passion project for me because my son is a goaltender as well. And as of right now, he is on the smaller end of the height spectrum. He's 5'10". 5'10". He's 5'1", but he is a 2010 born, depending on when you're listening to this episode. So, that puts him almost 13 years old. He's a late birthday, and he's 5'1". So definitely not a giant. However, my boy can move, right? He can stop pucks. And I think that's the frustrating part for him and for me as a hockey parent, as a goalie dad. And as for Dustin growing up, is that sometimes the ability to stop pucks is just overlooked because of the stature. It is the only position in the game that has gotten bigger over the last 10 years. Everybody else has gotten smaller. And when it comes to scouting and talent evaluation, sometimes people cannot look past the height. And so we dive into that. I think that's like a super interesting topic. And I guess a glaring obvious example of how much this infiltrates the pro scouting game, and I've seen it firsthand how it infiltrates youth hockey scouting as well. But Dustin, in his draft year, so he not only was he good enough to play in the WHL as a 16-year-old, which is crazy for a goaltender, but he was the starting goaltender at 17 years old, which was his draft year, which is also crazy. Not many players get that starting role at such a young age in the CHL, and he won that job for the Everett Silvertips, and so he had the starting job. He goes and plays 61 games that season, for Everett. He has a 1.69 goals against average and a 936 save percentage. If you're not into goaltending stats, that's like goalie porn. It's like crazy how amazing those numbers are. 1.69, 936. Tops in the league in both. The team does well that year, really well. They do pretty well in playoffs. He plays 10 games in playoffs. He has a 2.02 goals against average and a 914 save percentage. Still great numbers. And he goes into his draft year, and we cover this in this episode, his feelings about it and everything else. And he does get drafted. So he gets drafted, but he gets drafted 214th overall by the Calgary Flames in the 7th round. 3 players in the whole draft get drafted after him. That's how long he waited there with the numbers that he had. And the only thing that you could point to for why this happened is because he wasn't huge from a height standpoint. So he's been proving people wrong forever. And again, the last 2 years in the AHL, proving people wrong. Best goaltender in the AHL, not the biggest, but the best. And he's knocking on the door to become a Calgary Flame. So we talk about all kinds of things, not only just goaltending. So if you're a goaltender or have a goaltender in your life, or obviously a goalie parent, you're going to love this one. But even if you're a player, like I asked Dustin questions about, hey, how is it? What makes it hard to stop pucks? Like, what as a shooter can we do to score more goals? We talk about the color of tape. We talk about the release. We talk about the way the game's played today, and what is difficult for goaltenders. So there's a ton of stuff that we get into. He talks about his mindfulness coach. Very, very openly, somebody that he's worked with for like six plus years, I believe he says. So mindset and mindfulness is definitely a part of his daily routine and his practice. He has somebody on his team, on his support staff to help him with that. Obviously, I really appreciated that aspect of the conversation because, although it is becoming more in vogue, meaning more popular amongst players, it's still a bit of a rarity to have somebody that has a personal mindset coach. Or mindfulness coach, as Dustin calls it. So we talk about what that person supplies for him, what they work on. We get into visualization and meditation. We get into a ton of good stuff here. So again, we are listening to one of the best young goaltenders in the world in this conversation. I have to send a special shout out to Lyle Mastier, a local hockey colleague of mine that has worked with Dustin on and off for quite some time. I think even as an amateur amateur athlete, and he put us in contact. So it was awesome that Dustin was able to speak with me. I really appreciated the conversation, and I know you out there will definitely appreciate this conversation. So without further ado, let's talk to one of the hottest young goaltending prospects in the world, Mr. Dustin Wolf. Dustin, thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
No worries, man. It's actually, I was excited to get a chance to chat with you. Anyone who's in the goaltending world, I'm sure would know your name because you've had such an illustrious start to your career. I have a small goalie in my household who obviously wants to do big things and follow in your footsteps. And I was always taken to the fact that you were a little bit undersized in today's world. So when I had a chance to connect with you, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's going to be so fun to chat about him and maybe what you've had to go through with that. But we're just going to cut right to the chase. It says you're 6 feet on Hockey DB and Elite Prospects. Is that actually how tall you are?
I'm going to say within like a tenth of an inch. So it's pretty close. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so rare to find, right? I mean, obviously you know that, and even with who you're around there with Calgary, like a goaltender that's 6 feet or under is such a rare commodity in pro hockey these days.
Yeah, I mean, here in Calgary, you've got two monsters in the net. Markstrom and Vladar are both, I think they're listed at probably 6'6" apiece, and standing next to them, I look like a dwarf. So it's a different. It's different being a smaller guy. It's pretty unorthodox, like you said. There's not too many guys that find a lot of success being a short guy. But when you are, you try to lead the path for the guys that aren't 6'3", and kind of try to open the door for those guys because you get cut short. It's nothing short of the truth. If you're 6'3", you get a little more generosity yourself in your career. Right. But, you certainly have to find other ways to stop pucks when you're a little smaller.
Yeah, which maybe I am biased because my son isn't the tallest yet, but I love the athleticism of the position, and I think when you are a little bit smaller, you have to be potentially a little bit more creative with your stops. But for me, like I like seeing that. I think that's fun, and as a hockey, I was a hockey player too. Maybe you know or don't know, but like I really enjoyed that. Like guys that were. You could tell they were being super competitive and they were, had to sometimes move to make saves. It kind of fires a bench up too. So were you, as far as like from a junior standpoint, youth hockey, were you on the underside then too? Like, were you a slow grower at the start? Were you always kind of in that realm of being one of the smaller goalies?
Yeah, I was never a large kid. Have always had a hard time gaining weight. I'm at a good point now where I'm happy with where I'm at, but for sure, I've never been the large kid on the totem pole throughout youth hockey. And again, you just have to pave your own path when you're not a massive human being. So
Right.
very thankful for being able to get to this point and prove more and more people just wrong. So
Yeah, man, good for you. Like, it's like the only position. I had that conversation just the other day with somebody in at least the National Hockey League level that's gotten bigger, like in the last 10 years. It's the only one. Defensemen have gotten smaller, forwards have gotten smaller, and the goalies have gotten really big. And even with me and the networking that I'm able to do with this podcast, like, there are legitimately NHL teams that they're not allowed to scout goalies that aren't 6'2" or bigger. Like, it's just like a line through their name without even seeing if they can stop a puck or not. Like, that to me is idiocracy. Like, it's craziness. Like, either you can stop the puck or you can't. So I don't know. I mean, you must have a dog in that fight. Like, you I would assume you're from the same book as me. Like, can you stop the puck or not?
yeah, exactly. And I don't know what teams abide by that so-called unwritten rule, but there certainly are teams out there that, if you're not a certain height, like you said, you get checked off the list.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate for that scenario because, there's guys that aren't 6'3" that are, excellent goaltenders. And there's guys that are playing in the league now that aren't that large. And there's going to be guys 10 years from now that are 6'1" and do the job just as well as a guy that's 6'5". So it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's a business, and every team has their business model. And to their credit, like, you assume as a larger human being, you take up more net and stop more pucks, but it might not necessarily be the case.
Yeah, you mentioned carving your own path. Like, one of the things that my son has heard, actually was that this year was the first kind of year that his stature, like, caught up with him from an evaluation standpoint, and in my mind, stop the pucks. I mean, so that's the thing. If we can keep that as being equal, and let's say he stopped as many pucks, if not more, that he got the job done. He was always, you move really well, you have great habits, you're super competitive, but the one thing, you can't control is your height, and you just don't have that. And then it seemed like when you are a smaller guy, that anything that gets beat on you high, it's almost like times 5, right? Like, that they assume that just because you're smaller and you got a puck that went over your shoulder, that, it's like 10 had just gone over your shoulder. Is there any message to, like, maybe younger goalies out there or smaller goalies that have fought or trying to fight the fight you fought?
Yeah, I mean, no matter what level you're playing at, you're gonna find the people that want to push you down based on your height. You're not 6'3". You're not going to succeed in this position in this sport. Simply enough, you just gotta show them and prove them wrong that, sure, their thoughts might be skewed one way from past results, but not everybody is 6 foot and can stop every shot that comes towards them, right? If you're good, you're good. I think that's basically what I'm getting at. I don't think you need to put too much pressure or emphasis in terms of if a coach is getting after you for losing one under the bar. You get to a level where guys are so good, it doesn't matter how big or how small you are. They're going to put it there no matter what. So it's, you're battling, you're competing, and just find ways to stop that little piece of rubber from hitting the twine. It sounds really simple sitting here and talking about it, but it's a little more intricate.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm absolutely fascinated with the position. I really am. I retired at 30. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of I was all over the place. I was a suitcase and played some in the NHL and over in Europe and blah blah blah. Right, but when I was done, I was done early, like 30, and I could still play, but I wanted to get into business. And the one thing that I did, like a year out, like I couldn't play with, like traditional men's league because it was just I was too fresh out of it and it wasn't fun. I couldn't really try. But where I could try was between the pipes. So I bought all new goalie gear, and I decided to try out the position. And oh my goodness, I mean, I always had an appreciation for it, but I mean, it was awesome to get in there and to try it. And I've said in this podcast before, what was super interesting was like from myself as a goal scorer when I played, like to understand what was difficult, you know what I mean? Like for a goalie and how you see the game and movements and things like that. So it was, I wish I would have done it when I was a little earlier in my career, so I could have known the inside track. But getting back to your point though about the whole, like, are you good enough, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, that's really the message. And right now with my son and maybe other ones listening right now, I try and be as black as white as possible. And I just said, hey, like, you're in a position where, your height isn't a favorable thing. And if you need to maybe even stop more pucks than the next guy, and to kind of use that as a chip on the shoulder to just, I mean, you've said it already, prove some people wrong. You have to kind of have a competitive fire about that. I think, like, yeah, be great. And if you're already a great skater, be even a better skater, like just keep getting better at your position until somebody says, yeah, right, and gives you the check mark. But boy, that's a position that beats you down enough. And it's kind of hard when you're a younger guy to hear some of these things that you can't control. But I'll use it as a preface into your draft year, because I think that's such an interesting thing. Like, you were, and for the listeners at home, and I'm looking on his elite prospects right now because, Dustin, you're like, your goalie stats are like insanity wherever you've been. Like, it's so awesome to see that. And your draft year was with Everett in the WHL, 61 games, a 1.69 goals against average, and a 936 save percentage. Same thing in the playoffs too, like off the charts numbers. So first of all, I want to hear about that season, you playing junior. But the other thing I just want to touch on is that you were a 7th round pick that year. Like a 7th round pick with those numbers. Like, obviously you've had this conversation internally before, I'm sure, somewhere. But you mean, if you were 6'5", I'm sure that's first rounder all over it. But because you're a little bit shorter, you slide, right? Am I not wrong with this statement?
Absolutely. That was my second year in the Western League. I spent my first season behind Carter Hart, so didn't really play a ton, but it wasn't a bad guy to sit behind for a season.
Right.
And then the next season, I played nearly every single game, which worked out perfectly for myself and for the draft and that sort of stuff. You can have all the opportunities to put yourself out there and let teams see you. So I was very fortunate for that. But like you said, like, I couldn't have really done much else besides win a championship that year. And it was weird. The draft was in Vancouver, so just north of Everett. So it was a quick and easy drive for myself and my family. And I sat there on day one, just to see friends, get picked and just kind of take in the experience of, the draft and having watched it on TV for many years previous. And obviously day 2 came, and it was kind of suspected between, rounds 3 and 5, simply just based on, a 2-inch gap. And it was to the point where we were already thinking of, camps for free agent. There was going to be a bunch of teams offering an invite. And I just happened to sit down in my seat for the last, 10 picks, and they called my name. So that was pretty rewarding for sure. It was a pretty awful day in terms of sitting there for, I think it was like 7 or 8 hours in the same seat. And in your mind and your inner critic, you want to just, like, you see other guys get picked, and you probably believe that you probably had a little bit of better season than them, or whatever the case may be. But teams had their scouting reports, and they chose to, pick whoever. And, Calgary took a chance on me, and obviously I'm very fortunate for that. And I get to prove them right and others wrong. So that's the fun part.
Isn't that draft a crazy thing? Like, so you already mentioned, so you were there day one. You didn't think you were going to go day one. I've already said that you probably could have gone day one or should have even gone day one. Like, again, if we get back to can you stop pucks, like, look at your stats. Like, that's crazy. But anyway, so like, as far as the lay of the land was, you're like, okay, I'm not a day one guy, maybe day two, rounds 3 to 5. And once that expectation is set, and believe me, I've been in your shoes, exact same. I thought I was supposed to be 15th to 10th, and I went 31st, and those 15 picks felt like it was 9 days long, like while you're sitting there. So I can imagine where you were at with that and all the stuff that was turning around. But the expectation is the killer, and what, just talk a little bit more about that. Like, you're an 18-year-old kid too, by the way. Like, this is not like, mature, wizened men sitting there, like you're sitting there. This is something you've dreamed about for a long time. You're sitting way longer than you wanted to.
Yeah. And I mean, even before the draft even happened, like I only talked to maybe like 7 teams and they weren't even really in-depth conversations. Like I didn't go to the combine. So obviously it was just like 15-minute phone calls with most teams. And so every time you see a team that you talk to with a pick, you're like, okay, well, maybe there's a possibility here. So you kind of get your hopes up, and obviously you don't get picked, and you're like, okay, well, on to the next one, I guess. I was fortunate enough. I've worked with a mindfulness coach it's been probably 6 years now, and he's from Vancouver, so he was at the draft with me and my family, and he's the most positive person on the planet, and he just had this feeling of like it's gonna work out, like just keep waiting, like you're gonna be okay. Like and I know it was probably around 5, my agent's walking up to my seat with a couple of different GMs saying like, hey, he's not short, like you say he's 6 foot, like sure he's 6 foot, but he's not like a short human being. And so everybody was kind of just like, this is kind of ridiculous in a way of like, you played really well during the season, and your selection number is simply based off of, your inches. And while it sucks at the same time, it also, after you do get selected and you have that opportunity to say, hey, like you guys took a chance, and now I'm going to prove that you made that right chance. And, so since that day, it's been great to have that chip on your shoulder, like you said, and just keep showing people that, okay, well, I believe teams made a mistake and one hopefully made the right one. Right.
Yeah, I know. Great way to frame it. I definitely want to get back to your mindfulness coach. That's cool that you have one. Not everybody does. Well, it's getting more in vogue these days. But as far as the 169 that year and the 936. I mean, that I assume was that number 1 in the WHL.
I think it had to have been up there. I think it was between myself and I think Ian Scott and Prince Albert ended up winning goalie of the year. So me and him were kind of battling all year long, and they ended up winning the championship that year. So that was pretty cool to see that. But it's each and every year in the Western League, I tried to put myself in the best possible position. And granted, we had excellent teams each and every season. Like without COVID, we could have probably won it a couple times, and we lost it my first season. Fell shorter of expectations in my second year, and then COVID hit, so that kind of killed all the vibes. But I mean, that was a good year.
What a cool place to play. Yeah, I'm an ex-Chief, so I played 4 years for Spokane. So Everett wasn't in the league when I was there, though, but we had Seattle and Portland and Tri-Cities, and Tacoma was there for a little while. So there was a nice little group of teams down there in the States, and it's a different beast playing down in the States. When I was in Spokane there, they just got that new rink. It was their first year with it. Was my last year, and geez, like we were selling that thing out consistently, 10-5, right? Like it was so fun to play junior hockey down there, and you guys with those good teams had some really good attendance as well. Maybe we go back even just a little bit before that, because I see Los Angeles Junior Kings on your resume here. they have quite a few alumni in there. I mean, I was a King for a hot minute for a while. So like I was, Jamie Storr was there, I believe. I think he might be part of the Kings, the Junior Kings, and Stefan Fissé was there as well. Were you a Los Angeles King fan growing up?
I am not from the LA area. I grew up a Sharks fan. I born just south of San Jose. So that was my hometown team growing up. When I was 10, my now agent and Rob Blake and Nelson Emerson basically convinced myself and my family to move down and play for their team. So that's kind of how I got my start in LA. If it weren't for them, I would have just stayed in Northern California most likely, and played there for 6 years, and it was great exposure. I mean, that's a big reason why I was able to get put in Everett. And like you said, like Jamie still works down there. I think he's with the Junior Kings. I actually just seen him probably a month and a half ago. I was down there. A lot of those guys have kind of stayed within the organization. I know Nally is, I want to say he's player development, but I'm not sure. Obviously, Blakey is the GM.
Right.
And obviously there's countless others too. But
so were you bilking out when you went down there, or was that a road trip? How'd you guys do that?
No, we ended up renting a place. My family did. Basically uprooted the household. I was an only child, so it was a little bit easier, but we ended up selling our house in San Jose, and we rented in LA for 6 years. And my dad would actually drive back and forth for work. So he'd come to LA for the weekends and drive back to Northern California to work. I don't know how he did it. That was absolute craziness. No, but obviously I wouldn't have reached anywhere near this point if it wasn't for their help and sacrifice. They put so much into it. So very thankful for that.
That's awesome. I was an only child too, and my kind of similar. We went to Sherwood Park when I was 14. My mom came, and my dad had to like stay and work, but he would come up like essentially every weekend, to watch me play. 10-hour drive, right, and then go around and go back home, like living a single life essentially. Like at the time, I wasn't ungrateful, but I wasn't completely comprehending what was going on either. I mean, I got to be completely honest, what they were doing for me as a minor hockey league player is actually kind of crazy. But, now I'm a dad and I got 3 boys and I'm all invested in them too. So I do understand it a little bit more now, but I mean, it's there's a process, to getting there sometimes. And some families are able to do it. And one thing when I'm working with the players I'm working with now is like that whole gratitude piece and that whole grateful piece is one to really hang on to, because it helps. I mean, it helps you, it helps people around you, right? It helps to stay grounded. And it sounds like you're appreciative of what mom and dad did there. And I'm sure you'll be paying them back at some point.
That's the hope, right?
Yeah. So with Carter Hart, so I mean that was really cool because Carter Hart, maybe the best Canadian goalie right now, or at least up there in the discussion. And you had a chance to play behind him, and he was a World Junior guy, and then you were a World Junior guy, correct? Like for US, I got that right, yeah. So, one, what was he like as a mentor? If at all. I mean, I know you guys are fairly close in age. And also let's get into that World Junior experience after that.
Yeah, I mean, we were like, I was coming into my first year. I actually was coming off of hip surgery, so I missed the first 2 months of the season. But obviously he played a lot of hockey, so I got to just sit back and watch and see what this back-to-back goal of the year guy did. And we each just kind of had like our own routines. Like I'm pretty strict in what I do, and he's the same way. He's pretty strict in what he does. So we were kind of on like different ends of the spectrum in terms of like I did my thing, he did his thing. Now that we've obviously been away from each other and are each playing pro hockey now, we've kind of reconnected a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, when he went off to Canada is when I got to play pretty much all of my games. I think I played 20 games my first year, and I probably played 12 of those while he was gone. So obviously, if he wasn't gone, I probably wouldn't have played nearly as much.
Right.
But no, it was pretty cool to just be behind him, and obviously he's had great success, and wish him nothing but the best as this year goes on.
Because he's a fairly athletic guy too. I mean, as far as today's day and age goes, did you see many similarities in your game, or is there something you could, learn from osmosis just by watching him?
Yeah, I mean, he's a very structured guy. I feel like he doesn't really break outside the box too much. He relies on his technique, and I think like off the ice, I think it took a lot of things from him. I think he kind of got me into like the hand-eye juggling. Don't tell him I said that, but just like the way he went about his day, his routines, and I think that kind of set me in a good path for how I wanted to do my things as well. I was kind of already in that situation, but even more so, just kind of seeing what a guy that was almost a first rounder and obviously was going to go on to play in the NHL. So that was cool to just be around him and see how he operates.
Yeah, cool. Maybe we can get into that a little bit, the routines. I mean, the preparation as a goalie is different than the player. I mean, a lot of the teams at even the minor hockey level, when we coach, like they'll do a player warm up, and the goalies won't even be involved in it. I mean, they'll be doing their own thing even at a young age. How did you go about building that? And was there a structure to it? Was there a method behind the madness, or are you kind of just a superstition routine guy?
Yeah, I mean, things are always evolving. You're finding new ways to prepare yourself. I think at the end of the day, when you find something that works best for you and you can kind of perfect that and also be open to new ideas, I think you're going to set yourself up to have success. Certainly being around Carter, like I've found out, like juggling was a big thing. I learned how to juggle, and obviously stretching and warming up, and just like a bunch of other stuff that's kind of evolved over the last couple of years. But like you said, like you could be 8 years old and you're off doing your own warm up, just because as a goalie, you need your own set of ways to get ready besides being a player. Like, granted, I'm not going to say anything negative about players, but they have it a little bit easier in terms of pressure and just how they get ready, in my opinion. But
yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, when I'm working with players, like especially at the younger levels, like everything seems to be around like getting your body ready, and there's kind of like a routine or a standardized kind of process of 45 minutes before I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, right? So your body's warm. I usually work with players on how they get their head and their energy levels going as well, right? As far as from a goalie's concerned, like the what I would use the word mindset, or the mental aspect of the game, is magnified in much different ways for your position. Not only the pressure that you've already said, if we want to use the word pressure, but also like the gap in between action, right? Like you have a lot of time sitting there by yourself. Walk us through that. Like, are you strategic about your mental game and your mindset? And if you are, how do you go about prepping?
yeah, I mean, like I mentioned before, it was that second year in Everett where I started working with my mindfulness coach. Now our relationship has evolved over the last 6 years, and we've become very comfortable with one another in terms of like what I like and what he suggests, and he's always searching for new ways to have an edge. And like you said, like meditation has become a thing on my game days. He always says I should be doing more, but it's hard to find time to just sit and do nothing. No, but like I said, the meditation is a big part for me to get the head right. And when you're on the ice, you could have action for 2 minutes straight, or you can have action for or no action for 5 minutes. So like you've got that big gap, like you said, and you're trying not to look in the crowd and find the hottie that's looking at you. But no, I think what I've found is thinking about nothing is like if you can think about nothing and just focus on what the task at hand is. That's where I've found the most success. And when I'm not thinking, I'm playing my best. When you have thoughts roaming through your brain, it's taking away energy to put towards, how you make saves or whatever it is, however you want to stop that puck. And that's kind of the aspects that I've been able to really work on and try to perfect since I started working with him. And I think it's been pretty critical. And if it weren't for him, I don't know if I'd have the same mental capacity for sure.
All right, let's take a short break from the conversation with Dustin just to give my usual shout out of thanks. That's it. That's all. That's all I want to say is thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of the Up My Hockey journey and the Up My Hockey podcast. I really appreciate every single one of you who's out there, who chooses to spend time with my guests and I, and who takes the time to comment and to share and to review. And that's all I got today. Just a message of gratitude that this is a big part of what Up My Hockey is. It is how we use the clips. I use them for teaching pieces with my clients. I use them for teaching pieces within my parent group on Facebook, and it really connects me to the game in a way that keeps me excited about it. And this conversation with Dustin is no exception. I really got some personal value out of it. I hope you're getting value out of it too. And if you are, by all means, please do share the love by following me on Instagram at Jason Podolin, or by joining the parent group on Facebook, Up My Hockey parent group, or just by telling your hockey buddies about the podcast and what it means to you. So thank you for being you. Thank you for being here. And now let's get back to the conversation with Dustin Wolf. Like when it comes to meditation, and not that I'm super well-versed, but I think I'm well-versed enough to have a conversation about it from my own practice and reading and everything else. But the idea generally with meditation is to be mindful, like to be present, right? Sure. To try and let the thoughts roll through, let them exist, but try and be as present as you can. Whereas you're speaking about, and then if you use like sports psychology lingo, it's like being in flow, or like being in the moment where things kind of slow down. It's essentially practice, right? And I'm sure that's maybe what your mindfulness coach is saying. Like the meditation is practice, so it becomes easier to do that in the game when the pressures are high. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's 100% practice. You can never perfect meditation. Your mind is its own being, whatever you want to call it. Like it goes on its own track. And so I think like his big message is like be the game. If you're not thinking and just being the game and being present and worrying about that next shot, you put yourself in a good position to have success. I know when I do my stuff on game days, I just try to literally just lay down and breathe and just think about nothing. Granted, it's a lot easier said than done, but there's always stuff that comes to your mind where you're like, why am I thinking about that right now? But like you said, it's a practice, and I should be doing more of it. And it's hard to get yourself to do nothing when you're so used to jumping from one thing to the next. And so that's certainly something I need to get better.
Yeah. Well, good self-awareness. I mean, really, I think that's one of the baseline, I think, skills like that I've tried to talk to players about, is like understanding that. Like once you understand yourself, then you can potentially do something about it, right? If you're inquisitive enough and curious enough. And I think your generation has had to deal with that more than any other. I know, right? I mean, as far as like the instant gratification, and there's something there all the time, and your brain is so used to it that it's probably even more challenging, right, to find the space to do that. But what a great practice that is. And as far as that goes, like, mental prep. Okay, so you have a meditation practice that your mindfulness coach wants you to do more, but you found value in it. You've been able to use it in a game. Do you use the other aspect of mental prep in the word of visualization? Do you use that as well as any part of your preparation?
I do, normally for about 10 to 15 minutes. probably like 45 minutes before warm up. I like to just sit on the bench and kind of visualize some scenarios that could happen. And as a goaltender, you see the same things over and over and over again. So just kind of put yourself in that mindset of, okay, I'm probably going to see this tonight, or even if I don't, I'm prepared for it. And even if the stuff I don't visualize comes, I'm still ready. So again, that's just another situation where it's visualization, but I think it's also probably part meditation where I just close my eyes and just kind of breathe and kind of let the mind do its thing in terms of, let's see what scenarios might happen and just kind of go from there. And it's a good time to just kind of ground yourself too. You're all game day, you're either sleeping, or by the time you get to the rink, you're go in terms of getting yourself warmed up, and your eyes and your body and whatever else you do as an individual to get yourself ready, and just kind of let loose and calm down, and just kind of present yourself as a body. So
you don't have a structure then per se. It sounds like you're fairly fluid with what you do visualize, depending on the game or who you're playing.
Yeah, I mean, every team does a little bit something different. Sometimes you incorporate some stuff they do, but at the same time, it's pretty much the same. I mean, like I said, you see the same things over and over and over. A guy's going to come in wide and hit the guy trailing, or so much of hockey is just around the outside now. So you're going from blue line to goal line, behind the net, back up to the blue, and it's just kind of a recurring process. So it seems like it's probably a little more complicated than it needs to be, but when you're in it and you've been through it for many, many years, it's just kind of like second nature.
Yeah, I know the vision. And one of the questions I get asked all the time by players is like, and I tell them there's no right way to do it, but third person or first person. Do you when you visualize it, is it through your eyes or someone watching you?
A little bit of both, I think. You kind of want to see it through your eyes, but you also want to see the situations kind of transpire from the outside point of view. So I guess probably just a little bit of both. I don't think, like you said, there's no wrong answer.
I find it easier from third person, and I think that's a practice too, right? Visualization, just like meditation. I think the more you do it, the better you get at it, the more detailed you can get about it, right? The richer the experience can be. And from everything that I've read and understood, like the richer it can be, then the more real it is to your body. Like you're actually making the saves, or for me, scoring the goals. So I have recently just been trying to practice a little more in the first person, just to try and get better at it, just as a practice. But definitely some value there for sure. I mean, without question, you can put in reps without being on the ice or whatever the heck you want to be.
100%.
Yeah. I did promise I was going to ask you about World Junior. So share with me that experience and what that was like for you to represent your country.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to go 2 years. The first year was in the Czech Republic, so that was the first time for myself out of North America. So that was obviously an interesting experience. You go to the European fan base, and it's unlike anything else, really. Just from like an outside of hockey perspective, like the food's different, the hotels are different, just the cities, the way they operate are different. But from a hockey standpoint, like I played one game. I played with Spencer Knight both years, so he had a majority of the starts. And like our first year, we kind of underachieved. We ended up losing in the quarterfinal to Finland. So it was a quick flight back to the States. After basically as soon as we lost, we were on the plane 5 hours later. So, but the next year was COVID, so we were in the bubble, and that was a interesting scenario to say the least.
Yeah.
I mean, we won gold that year, so that was experience for the ages. You'll never get to do that again in terms of being 18 or 19. I think I was 19 at the time. And that was just something surreal. Obviously, I wish I wasn't in a bubble scenario. We didn't have any people in the building. But Canada and the gold medal was pretty surreal. I obviously didn't get to play, but just being on the bench for those was something spectacular. Every player on each team is either playing in the NHL or is basically right there. So it's pretty cool to see everybody go to work and do their thing.
Yeah, it's totally fun. I mean, a lot of guys that I interview that even have played like, with 1,000-game NHLers or whatever, right? But if you've won gold at that, and I mean, I don't want to take anything away from being American winning gold. I have no idea what that's like to come back home. But I know in Canada here with the coverage on TSN and everything else, like it's a career highlight, plain and simple. I mean, it's one of the biggest things that you'll ever do, and you do it at 19. So the fact that you were able to win gold as well, that's pretty cool. Congratulations on that. I know that's fun. I'm sure you would have rather been between the pipes, but what a great 1-2 punch you guys had there. That was crazy as well. My goodness. When it comes to just back to the mindfulness part a little bit, and I know one of the things that goalies have a hard time with, really at any level, but is that the mistake and the idea that when you make a mistake, I mean, it's in the back of your net and everybody knows, and it's easy to point the finger. How do you go about the recovery from a mistake, or how do you reframe that mistake, or any pointers for young kids out there about that aspect of your position?
Yeah, like you said, you can't dwell on a mistake for long. Everybody has their way of getting over it. Like, I like to, if there's an opportunity to see the replay, see what kind of happened. Because there's a lot of plays where you just have no idea what happened. Like, it just happened so fast, and there's times where you don't even see the puck. So it's like, okay, well, how is it in my net right now? But ones that like you should have, they're like, well, I got to make that save or whatever. Just kind of take a look. Obviously, we're lucky to have replays. Obviously, there's a lot of kids that don't have that opportunity, and I was in that shoe at 1.2. But just get some water and kind of take a quick process of what just happened and just try to move on. You gotta have a short memory, because next thing you know, they're coming right back at you, and if you don't have a short memory, they could bury another one quickly. So it's almost an awful position as a goaltender, because you're in your own world, and everything's like magnified, no matter if it's something you should have or something you believe you didn't really have much of a chance on. At the end of the day, it got past you, and that's what most people think. So it's a tricky position, but like you said, you just gotta put it behind you and just focus on the next shot.
Yeah, easier said than done, right? I mean, especially for some, when you're just trying to build that kind of that armor, right? Like one thing I talk with players about is like working with them on what they believe a mistake means, right? If a mistake means you screwed up or you're a bad player, like that's a way different place to operate from, as opposed to it trying to find, like what you're saying, trying to find the lesson in what happened, right? Like if you can watch the replay, watch it. And if you can learn something from that, then it's a lot easier, I think, to put that behind you and move forward, because now you're more empowered, right, to look at the next one. So that's one thing I say to kids is like, try and find what went wrong, understand how you could fix it, and then get in the moment again, right? To your point with the meditation, right? Like that, get back to the present moment. You can't fix what happened 5 minutes ago. And yeah, if you can give them some type of actionable thing, I think it does help. But yeah, you got to be wired a little different for your position for sure, right? I mean, you have to kind of like it. You have to like that aspect of it, because if you don't,
crazy,
it could get a little bit tiresome really quick. All right, another short break here just to remind you that upmyhockey.com is where you find all things Up My Hockey, because Up My Hockey is more than a podcast. Up My Hockey is on-ice development. If you are local to the Okanagan Valley, we do skill sessions. We have spring hockey programs. We have summer hockey programs. You can find everything that is happening with Up My Hockey for on ice stuff there. And you can also find out what's happening with Up My Hockey as far as personal development and mindset development is concerned. That is really where the online portion of Up My Hockey takes over, where you can connect with me and my content and my philosophies and my trainings from wherever you are on the planet, really. Obviously, most of my listeners come from North America, but I've definitely had clients take the Peak Potential program. The one that comes to mind is a young man from Ireland. That was so super fun to work with an Irish hockey player. And yeah, so you can connect with Up My Hockey wherever you are at, and you can take a mindset program if that's what you want. You can definitely join my Inner Circle, which is my private group coaching group of athletes. You can also work with me one-on-one. There's lots of ways to work with me wherever you are, and that is really the specialty and what separates Up My Hockey from other programs out there is the personal development, the intangibles required to be your best consistently, to bring your best game, to develop faster than others while you are trying to get to where you want to go. That is what Up My Hockey can help you with. So you can find that at upmyhockey.com. Right now is the time of year where teams are signing up. If you want to get your team involved with the Peak Potential Hockey Project, I think that's a fantastic idea. It will give all of your athletes an advantage over the competition on a personal level as well as a group. And it takes really team building to a brand new level. You're talking about stuff you've never talked about before. You understand each other better. You understand how to be better teammates. You understand what high performance means and what it requires. And it really is a galvanizing tool, regardless of really age. But it's definitely specific to competitive athletes. If you want to be a hockey player, if you want to go places and you have big goals and dreams, and yet you want this season in front of you to be successful, by all means, reach out to Up My Hockey and we can get you involved in the Peak Potential Hockey Project. Now let's get back to the conversation with Dustin Wolf. I have a couple notes here before we started, and so I'm gonna ask you a couple questions from a goal scorer position.
Sure.
Meaning, like, what makes a good goal scorer? I wrote factors of a shot. I said a release, the speed of the shot, and the accuracy of the shot. There might be other things in there, maybe deception, but in your mind, like, who are the hardest guys that you find to stop? What about them makes them difficult?
I think deception's a big part of it. They show one thing and do another. And obviously as a goaltender, you tracking the puck is your number one, but you can also get a lot of information based on the blade of the guy's stick. Like whether it's open or closed, or kind of like tendencies of guys too, where they like to shoot. But at the end of the day, like at the NHL, guys can show one thing and put it in another place. So it's hard to get reads on some guys. I know one guy I had a really hard time with was Lucic. He doesn't really show much of anything. He's got a lot of power behind him, and he keeps his blade very open, but he can roll his wrist faster. So it's kind of crazy how skilled players are now, that they can show you one thing and do another. And I think that's kind of the fun thing too, is you can do the same thing and show them a little space and get rid of it real quick. So
yeah,
kind of the game within the game.
That is cool. Yeah, so for the younger players listening, you're talking about open and close. Like essentially, that's your blade angle is what Dustin's saying there. You know, so you can, if you're going to shoot low blocker as a righty, your blade's going to be turned over. You know, you're going to be showing that scenario, and a guy like Dustin will be able to pick up on what that blade looks like. So before you even shot the puck, he kind of knows where you're going. And the idea would be that you're showing that type of release, and then right at the last second, you're opening up your blade, and maybe you're going top glove right at the last second, right? I mean, essentially what you're saying with that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And guys are getting real smart now and pulling it in towards their body. Granted, most guys pull in and shoot across their body, but there's a lot of guys now that can pull it in and push it out. So they're shooting away from their body, which is extremely hard to do, but guys are so good now. It's second nature to them.
Right.
So it really takes a lot of patience from my perspective in order to make them make the first move and kind of read off of them.
Yeah. And we're talking about a guy, I guess, right now, kind of coming down the wing. You're zeroed in on him. You're square to him, and he has the ability to shoot and make a release. Like the one thing when I'm talking with players, and well, one, you guys are so damn good now too, right? Like, I mean, it's hard to beat a goalie if it's just you and the goalie, almost from anywhere. Like you guys have gotten so good at that position that oftentimes, and you've already pointed that out, like it's an east-west, north-south game. Like the puck is moving fast and it's moving long distances. You guys are moving to track the puck. And the one thing I say to guys when I'm trying to teach them how to be goal scorers is that you got to shoot for areas of the net, and it's got to be off your stick as quick as possible. I mean, those are my two things, because if you're coming across, the chances are that you're not going to get to that far post as quick as maybe my puck can be, but it can't be on my stick for very long. Like, I would rather sacrifice the time it's on my stick than making sure I get the extra 5 kilometers an hour on it, because you might already be there by that point. Am I on the right track when it comes to trying to beat a goalie? Is it a release quickness of how that puck is on your stick?
Absolutely, and there's just you can't have any dust on it. It's on your stick, off your stick. Granted, at the American League or NHL, you go east to west, and it's on their stick and off their stick faster than you can blink. So it's the time you have to go from right to left or left to right is very minimal, and that's a big thing. Is just like your skating. Your skating has to be unbelievable to get to your spots. There was some stat where when the puck crosses the midline, like the expected goals is like significantly higher, because you're making the guy move a large distance, and in theory the shooter has the advantage.
Right. So yeah, that's I couldn't agree more. That midline, I've actually heard that stat before too, that you're making a goalie cross, from the center ice of the ice, it opens up windows. And it makes sense too, right? Just for what we were talking about, that you can't get square, you can't be set. You have to be coming across and make a save while moving, which is a heck of a lot more difficult. It's funny that you say that, because I mean, I've had goalies as a shooter that I felt really comfortable with and could score on. And then I've also had goalies that I could not beat for the life of me. One that I actually did really well against was John Van Beesbrook. He didn't like my release, right? Like he didn't, and I could score on him lots. And he said, remember him talking to me, it was like one of the coolest conversations, your release is great, NHL release, blah, blah, blah. And then when I was in Toronto, Curtis Joseph, like I could have 100 pucks on him and he knew where I was shooting it before I even knew. Like, it was so frustrating. I assume you must have that with players too, guys that you just kind of know where they're going to. You can almost have fun with them. I know Curtis Cujo was like that with me.
Yeah, like every guy on your team, you see their shots enough throughout the season where a lot of them go the same places. Hopefully not your head, but there's certainly guys that I'm like, okay, well, I'm very comfortable with you coming down right now. And other guys are like, okay, well, stay over there, like pass the puck. But that's just kind of the fun part. You can learn that everybody's release is so different, and everybody's skill set. Like one guy could have he's just quicker, or he shoots it harder, or it's just hard to pick it up off his blade. There's some guys that you just can't read it whatsoever. So it's weird how that stuff works. You think the puck's coming from the same spot, it shouldn't matter, but for some reason it does.
You said pick up the puck, which I wrote on there because we've had some debates about it. It seems like a lot more players are using white tape now on their blades. And that was a little bit from an old school side, that we thought that black tape would hide the release a little bit more and maybe, I don't know, give you a slight advantage as a player. Does it matter to you at all if it's white or black tape? Is that something you even notice?
I don't think so, honestly. I mean, I've had other coaches that have said you need to use black tape, like from a player's perspective. And at the end of the day, like you're either going to score or you're not. I don't know if tape really makes a difference, but I feel like nowadays it's just more style for guys.
Yeah, I agree. About 5 points, and I think the white looks better.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as those roles, the difference between being a guy that's not playing every night, and that you said you experienced there in the WHL. I mean, I don't think you've experienced that at the AHL level. Looks like you've been getting the majority of the starts, but how does that even change, like from the mental perspective of that? Being a guy that you're going in pretty much majority of the nights to being a guy that you got to get your reps in practice for the most part and stay as ready as you can.
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky. For the last 5 years, I've started a large majority of the games every season. And, that's what you want to do. You want to play as many games as you can. That's fun. And we've had good teams, so you're winning a lot. So that makes it even more enjoyable. Like you said, from a guy that doesn't get to play a whole lot, your practices are your games in theory. That first year in Everett, I would pretty much only play the third game of 3 games in 3 nights until Hart was gone for World Juniors. So I pretty much knew that if there was a 3-3 coming, that I just need to be ready for this scenario. And I feel like a lot of coaches nowadays are able to present like day before, hey, like this guy's going to play, this guy's not going to play. Or, hey, like we're playing back-to-back, so you're going to play the second half of the back-to-back. So in that scenario, you can kind of look forward to certain dates on when you can probably get in. But at the end of the day, you don't want to get your hopes up too if you think you're going to play but end up not.
Right.
So just use your practices as your games. That's the way you got to get better. You don't get the opportunity to work things out in games. So it's not the best scenario, but at the same time, sometimes you got to pay your dues.
Yeah, how about from a perspective of like being the starter, and the other side of it, like the teammate side, I guess now the locker room side. I think there's a different. Well, I know for me, like at the pro level, like the guy that was usually like we'll say it, the backup was like just kind of an amazing dude for the most part. Like they would be out there forever at practice. It'd be a guy that would be, usually pretty friendly in the locker room. Starter was usually more rigid, less approachable, right? I mean, that type of stuff. So maybe talk about that. And then also just the relationship between goalies and your partner. Like, do you feel any obligation to, as the starter to be talking with him or making him feel comfortable? Or, I mean, how does that relationship work in a locker room?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there where the guy that's not playing a lot is largely the time the so-called ball of energy. They're super talkative, great teammate, and just a guy that everybody wants to be around. I know, like last year, Oscar Dansk was my partner. He's kind of been around. I think he was almost a first rounder to Columbus. Played for Vegas their inaugural season. Played a bunch in the American League, went over to Europe, came back, and the relationship between me and him is like you would never think that we're competing for starts. The friendship is remarkable. You have a guy that's knows what you're going through, and I know what he's going through, and it's like, okay, well, sure, I'm playing a large part of the games, but he's the biggest support system you have. He's there in between periods, in between TV timeouts, doing whatever you need. I know, like, if I need a sandwich, he'd go make me a sandwich. Like, it's just that sort of relationship where you do whatever you need to do to help that guy have success. And I know with the Flames right now, Vladar was Markey's backup, and he was the same way. Like, he's an outstanding human, just wants the best for everybody. And no matter who was playing, the guy that wasn't playing is always going to have the best interest of the guy that's playing in mind. So whatever that guy needs, you're there to help him. So I think that's kind of the relationship for large majority of teams, in my opinion.
Right. When it's healthy, for sure.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
But man, like it is like for Joe, average guy, this working whatever job, like it's so counterintuitive, really, right? I mean, like I said, you're competing, you want the starts, like you want to be in the NHL, like whatever the thing is, like this guy doing great isn't really in your personal best interest. I mean, like at the end of the day, but yet to still do that. I mean, I think that there's, I mean, I don't know the gentleman that you said, that sounds like he's had a lot more years pro than you. And, you know, I did know guys that I played with that made a career out of it at the end of their career to like being a support unit. Like that was what they were great at. You know, I mean, he can probably still obviously stop pucks really well, but he's there to help, right? He's there to fill that role. Scott Nickel comes to mind with the Predators. He was essentially a guy that went around, was a fourth line center, and he was training the young guy to come in to be the fourth line center and take his job. Then he'd go somewhere else. Like that's what he was trying to do, you know? So anyways, it's kind of interesting in that position, because I think sometimes it can be a little bit more authentic, I guess, than having another 22-year-old right beside you, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
those starts, right?
It's certainly different. I mean, if you have a guy that's the same age and you're fighting for starts, you still want the best for him, but at the same time, you like that competition and you want to win games over him. I think that's going to be the situation anywhere. Is like you said, you want to play. You want to play as many games as you can. You want to help your team win as many games as you can. So I think that's a big reason why most goalie tandems are so tight. Is the end goal is you want to lift a trophy over your head. And if he's having success, the team's having success, and ultimately, like, you're going to be going in a better place because teams want winners. And at the end of the day, you get to build a good friendship along with it. So it's pretty interesting for sure.
I wouldn't do this interview justice if I didn't. We're coming up on our stop time, so I'll definitely respect that. But I want to talk with you about, you know, being a pro, and you got your NHL game last year. I know you want many, many, many more, but you played an NHL game. You got the win. Like, talk about that and like how, you know, the process of that happening and just that experience in general.
Yeah, I mean, that's a dream for every kid. I was super lucky. I played my first game against my hometown team, so that was pretty awesome. I mean, you dream of playing for the Sharks, and the next thing you know, you're playing against them. So it was pretty awesome to get the call that we were supposed to be going to Abbotsford with the American League, and they said I was staying here for the last game. And so just to put yourself in the shoes of a guy that's playing against the best in the world, when, you know, that's what you dream as a kid, but maybe you don't ever think you're going to get there. It's pretty awesome, and obviously it's hopefully the first of many, but something you remember forever for sure.
What an amazing, I guess, I don't know what the right word is there, but, you know, a bonus. I mean, for Calgary to I think that's a recognition of obviously what you did last season, which was another amazing season in the AHL. And they're like, hey, let's give this guy a start. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I think that seems like what it was. Is that what it felt like? And when were you grateful for it, of course?
Yeah, I think obviously their last game, we were just getting ramped up for playoffs in the American League. The Flames had just been eliminated from the playoffs, so in theory maybe a throwaway game in terms of like it didn't mean anything, but it obviously meant a lot to myself. And first rounder from 2021, I think, Matt Coronado, me and him played our first game together, so obviously pretty cool to share that experience with somebody. And obviously you only get that once, so tried to take as much of it in as I could.
That's awesome. Okay, last question. So as far as you and like where you are at with Calgary right now, you mentioned Vladar, and Markstrom we know is on a long-term deal. Looks like you're third in line, and we all know how that can happen in today's NHL. 2 injuries and you could be a starter. But how do you deal with your own personal development and your projection to, you know, the league that you want to be in, which I know is the NHL? Like how do you size that up, and what does it look like for you right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've had 2 really good years in the American League, and in my perspective, I want to keep pushing the boundaries as much as I can. Obviously, Marky's got 3 more years Vladdy's got 2 more years on his signed contract from last season. So obviously camp's just starting, so I'm trying to make the staff make decisions on what's going to happen. I know there's a lot of different changes this season in terms of staff, coaches, GM. So there's a whole different vibe in the arena, which is good. And hopefully this opens the door for more young guys with cap space and that sort of stuff. So just trying to do what I do best and stop as many pucks as I can right now.
Yeah. I guess that's all you can do, right? Stop pucks and hopefully somebody likes you while you're doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it. That was an hour, like we discussed. So thank you so much for sharing your goalie wisdom. Yeah, whenever I've seen you, you've been a pleasure to watch, and wish nothing but the best for you. You got a fan in me as far as from the undersized goalie department is concerned. I'd love to see you stake your claim there and have a long career. So yeah, good. Best of luck there with Calgary, and I'll be tuning in this year whenever you get a start.
I appreciate it. It means a lot.
Thank you so much for listening to that entire episode. Dustin, thank you. If you happen to listen to this, I really enjoyed that chat. Something about goalies. I've always been drawn to goalies, even when I was a player. For some reason, I was the guy sitting beside them all the time and having discussions and making friends with them. And I just think it's always been such an interesting position. It's like the game. It's a completely another game that they're playing. It truly is. I mean, hockey, yes, of course, we're all on the ice, but they are the only ones doing what they're doing. They are playing by almost a different, like they have different skill sets, different sets of rules, almost like everything about what they do is completely different. And I love that about the position. Actually, I thought that was really cool. And yet there's so much pressure's the wrong word, opportunity to impact a game positively and negatively. So yeah, love that conversation with Dustin. I love what he's been through. I love the message there to younger athletes to continue to just keep proving people wrong and continue to find ways to stop pucks. And when you're good enough, people will find you. And I think that's really the message here of this one is just keep being better than everybody else. And if you continue to stop pucks and if you continue to make a difference in games, there will be somebody that wants you on their team. And yeah, I mean, we have to be honest, the black and white nature of the way the world is right now, if you are not huge, an enormous giant, you are going to have less people that want you to be a part of things. For whatever the reason is, big goalies are in vogue right now. And nothing against big goalies. If you're a big goalie out there listening to this, by all means, I hope you get opportunity and I hope you get to where you want to go. But for the younger players out there and the smaller players out there who are trying to fight this height battle, please do not be discouraged by it. Just recognize the reality of your situation and get better at what you do, right? Be the most amazing skater out there. Be super precise on your angles, right? Understand the game, anticipate the game better. Just make yourself better to overcome whatever vertical challenge you might have and stop pucks and enjoy doing it. I think that's one of the things that I fall in love with. Maybe why I like smaller goaltenders in the first place is because they generally seem to have to work a little bit harder. They have to be a little bit more competitive. They might have to throw in some crazy acrobatic save every once in a while. And for me, I love seeing that. As a hockey fan, I love seeing that. So I've always had a soft spot for the smaller goaltender. So just keep rocking and rolling, you guys. Keep fighting. No different than maybe any other spot when you're dealing with size, but don't let that hold you back from chasing whatever it is that you want, because there is room for you, believe me. So until next time, play hard and keep your head up.